Let's bring in Democratic Congresswoman Jackie Speier. She's a member of the House Intelligence Committee. Good morning, Congresswoman.
Good morning, Allison.
What do you think about this new reporting from The Atlantic and Julia Yaffe that finds that Don Jr. was in contact with WikiLeaks through a series of direct messages?
Well, we know that WikiLeaks turned out to be a cutout for the Russians during the campaign. And we also know that there were a number of interactions between WikiLeaks and persons within the campaign. And now we know that Don Jr., who was an integral part of that campaign, was not only in communication with WikiLeaks, but actually taking some direction from WikiLeaks. And I would say, since we know that WikiLeaks have been defined by Mike Pompeo, the CIA director under President Trump, as a non-state hostile intelligence service, we've got a problem here.
Taking direction, you just said, from WikiLeaks, is that the same as coordination?
I think it is the same as coordination. I think at some point it could even be conspiracy.
And if it's conspiracy, that means what people have been referring to as collusion.
Collusion is one of those words that it's hard to define, but certainly coordination and conspiracy are not. And I think in the end, what we're going to find is that the election was rigged. President Trump, during the campaign, kept calling it a rigged campaign, a rigged election. Yeah, I think it was rigged, and it was rigged on his behalf.
So just follow that train of thought for me. So if you say it can be proven, you believe at some point that there was conspiracy, that means what?
Well, from a congressional perspective, it means that we've got to double down in making sure that our election system is not hackable, that we can make sure that moving forward, we can count votes and know that they haven't been tampered with. We've got to be vigilant in making sure that the social media sites are not being infiltrated by our adversary. This was a cyber war that went on, and it was an attempt to undermine our democracy by the Russians, and they were very successful.
Right, but what does it mean? What does this might be proven to be a conspiracy mean for a who goes to jail?
Well, good question, and that's not something that the House committees are under the authority to look at. That's something that would be done by Mr. Mueller and special counsel and the Department of Justice.
And do you feel that your House Intel Committee is getting close to conclusions?
I don't think we're anywhere near being completed in terms of our interviews. I know that the majority would like to just bring this to an end because they want this behind them, but there are probably another 30 to 50 witnesses that the minority would like to see brought in to be questioned.
Okay, so now, as you know, Jeff Sessions, Attorney General, says that he is considering appointing a special counsel to investigate the Clinton Foundation and the Uranium One deal. Are you comfortable with that?
They're in the majority, so we don't have a lot to say about that. I would say that, excuse me, I would say that it is a direction from the president. He's been pounding on this. It was an issue that he tried to raise during the campaign. We all know that Uranium One as a deal has been investigated thoroughly, and that it was a deal in which the owner that contributed to the Clinton Foundation actually sold his interest back in 2008. It is uranium that must stay in the United States. It is not being sold anywhere else. Russia is a minority interest holder. But let's look at all the Trump towers and how many Russian interests there are in Trump towers around the country.
Let's talk about something else that you're quite passionate about, and that, of course, is the Me Too movement that has been sweeping the country. It's with people, mostly women, but some men as well, coming out and telling their stories of sexual harassment, even sexual assault. And so we were stunned to learn last week just how widespread, I think is a fair word to say, it is even in Congress and with women who have had this experience in the halls of Congress, and about the laws or the rules inside Congress that make it really challenging for people to come forward. You are trying to change that. Tell us about your new legislation.
Well, it's a combination of two bills. One would require mandatory sexual harassment training for members and staff. And then beyond that, the second bill would reform the Office of Compliance. Right now, if someone wants to file a complaint, they've got to go through a month of legal counseling. Then they have to sign a non-disclosure agreement that is in perpetuity. Then they go through mediation, and then they have to have a 1-month cooling off period. All the while, they are still required to work in that office that was a hostile work environment. So 3 months. And by the way, the attorney in mediation is representing the harasser. The general counsel of the House is representing the harasser. The victim has no counsel, no support.
It is remarkable to hear about that, how long it's been going on, and how the decks have been stacked against anybody wanting to come forward with their story. So, Congresswoman Speier, thank you very much for explaining it all.